Here is something the medical system doesn't tell you. Pain and injury are not the same thing. We've been conditioned to treat them as synonymous. Feel pain, stop moving, protect the area, rest, wait for it to disappear. And for some people, that cycle has been running for years. Rest, flare up, rest again. Never quite getting any better, never quite understanding why. But what if rest is part of the problem? Today, we're going into the science of pain, what it actually is, why your brain creates it, how to tell the difference between a signal worth respecting and one that you need to push through, and why building a body that's genuinely resilient means learning to have a relationship with discomfort rather than a fear of it. By the end of this episode, you will never think about pain the same way again. Let's start with the most important reframe in this entire conversation. Pain is not damage. Pain is a warning system. Your nervous system produces pain as a protective output, a signal that says, I perceive a threat here. Not tissue is definitely torn, not you are definitely broken, just I am not sure that this is safe. The evidence for this is everywhere once you start looking. People with significant spinal disc herniations, things that look alarming on an MRI, often have zero pain. Meanwhile, people with completely normal spines can be debilitated. There is a famous study where researchers scanned the spines of people with no back pain whatsoever and found that over 50% had disc bulges, degeneration, or other structural abnormalities. These people were completely asymptomatic. And then there's the phantom limb pain people. These people experience intense, real agony in a limb that no longer exists. The tissue is gone. The pain is very much present because pain lives in the brain, not the body. Paper cuts hurt more than deep bruises. Stress makes your back worse. Bad sleep makes everything ache more. These aren't coincidences. They are the nervous system showing you exactly how much context shapes the pain experience. Pain is your brain's best guess at whether you're safe, but it's not always right. So if your pain isn't always about damage, where does it come from? Well, it comes from several places and they overlap. Sometimes it's genuine tissue overload. You did more than your capacity could handle in that moment. A sprain, a muscle strain, inflammation from repetitive stress. Real structural input. But more commonly, especially in chronic pain, it is about sensitivity. Your nervous system has been running on high alert for so long that it starts producing pain signals with less and less provocation. The threshold drops, the volume turns up. Things that shouldn't hurt start to hurt. And then there is the capacity problem, which is where movement comes in. If you've spent years avoiding certain positions, never loading a flexed spine, never working end range hip flexion, never putting weight through an extended shoulder, your nervous system has no data on these positions. It doesn't know if they are safe. So when you move into them, it throws up a warning, not because you are damaged, but because you are untested. Pain in this context is your body saying, I don't own this range. I have no confidence here. I have no trust. And the only answer to that is earned exposure, not avoidance. You want to expose yourself to the medicine in good dosages, but you never want to avoid. And this is the question that everyone asks, and it deserves a real answer rather than listen to your body, which is genuinely useless advice if you've never been taught how to listen to your body. So here is how I read pain. The pain you work with, so muscle burn, end range stretch discomfort, effort fatigue, mild soreness that improves once you get moving. This pain is symmetrical, predictable, stable. It doesn't escalate during the session. It doesn't leave you worse the next day. It's the feeling of tissue being challenged and adapting. But then there's the pain which needs your respect. The sharp, stabbing, or sudden pain. The pain that creates an involuntary flinch or movement compensation. Joint instability. Neurological symptoms like tingling, numbness, shooting sensation down a limb. Pain that gets progressively louder as you continue or that leaves you significantly worse in the days that follow. The key distinction is escalation. Discomfort that stays stable or improves as you warm up is typically safe to navigate. But pain that builds, changes your movement pattern, or feels threatening is telling you something specific, so you need to listen to that. A personal example, when I started working seriously on Jefferson curls, loading spinal flexion, building strength in a range that most coaches tell you to avoid forever, there was real discomfort for me. Deep stretch, unfamiliar sensations, a kind of dull ache in the lower back. But it was stable. It faded with repetition, and over time, my back felt more capable and resilient than it ever had avoiding that range. But contrast that with a sharp knee pain I experienced mid-session during a heavy split squat. Different quality entirely. This was sudden, unstable, something changed. So I stopped, I modified, I built back carefully. That wasn't toughness, that was intelligence. Learning to read the difference is a skill, and like every skill, it gets better with practice. But if you're not moving your body at all, you have no ability and no chance to actually put that practice into play. So should you train through pain or rest? The honest answer, it depends, and the filter matters more than the rule. Rest is not neutral. Every day you don't move, you're not recovering to baseline. You are often losing capacity, sensitivity increases, and the fear of movement compounds. You're essentially going backwards. For chronic pain especially, rest is frequently the worst prescription that a person can receive, yet it's the most common one. Here is the filter that I actually use. Does the pain change your movement? If you're limping, compensating, or bracing differently to protect an area, that's a signal worth taking seriously. Moving through pain that's altering your mechanics is how you create secondary problems. Does the pain improve or worsen as you warm up? Pain that loosens off with movement is generally okay to push through. Pain that escalates with every rep is not. Where is it on the scale? Mild discomfort, a 2 or 3 is often fine to work within. A 7 or 8 that spikes sharply is probably not. Is the pain worse the next day than after the session? One standard, you should feel no worse 24 hours later than you did going into the session. So the goal is never to push through pain at all costs, and it's never to avoid all discomfort. It's to develop enough body literacy to know what your signal is actually telling you and respond accordingly rather than reactively. So let's talk about why avoidance makes the issue even worse. This is the part that gets people uncomfortable, and it's the most important part. Avoiding pain doesn't resolve pain, never. For most chronic presentations, it deepens the pain. Here is what actually happens when you protect an area for long enough. The muscles around it weaken, the range shrinks, the nervous system receives no positive data about that position, and sensitivity increases. The bar for what triggers a warning signal gets lower and lower. You're doing less and you are hurting more, and the avoidance feels justified because movement does hurt, but the movement hurts because of the avoidance. It's a clean loop that only goes one direction if you don't interrupt it. Your body adapts to what you expose it to. Load a tissue progressively and it gets stronger. Protect it indefinitely and it gets fragile. This isn't motivational, it is basic tissue physiology. The people who recover best from chronic pain are not the ones who found the perfect passive treatment. They are the ones who gradually, intelligently reintroduce movement and build capacity in the ranges they've been avoiding. You must learn to train with and around your injuries if you want to get better fast. So how do we build back intelligently? What does that actually look like? The principle is progressive exposure, not aggression, not avoidance, but a deliberate and graduated return to range. So start with isometric positions. Hold a position at the edge of discomfort, not pain, and then build tolerance there before adding load or movement. This is particularly powerful for tendon issues where isometric holds have strong evidence for pain reduction. Then load the end ranges. If your lower back hurts, don't just avoid flexion. Work towards it very carefully. unloaded rounding, cat-cow with control. Eventually, you'll be able to do Jefferson curls with a light plate. Build strength in the positions that your body currently has fear and opposition to. Crawling is genuinely underrated here as well. It loads the wrists, the shoulders, the hips, and the spine all at the same time in a pattern that the nervous system recognizes as non-threatening. It rebuilds coordination and joint confidence in a way that heavy barbell work simply cannot do. Another thing you can do is train your body unilaterally. So single leg work, split stance, loaded carries, these expose asymmetries and force your body to stabilize independently on each side rather than compensating with the stronger one. So this way you will rebalance your body a lot faster and more efficiently. And finally, you need to address the inputs that amplify pain signals. Your sleep, stress, sedentary time. These aren't soft recommendations. They directly affect the nervous system sensitivity. Someone who's sleeping 5 hours, sitting for 10, and running on cortisol will experience the same movement with significantly more pain than somebody who isn't. The body and the context are not separate. Now let's touch on the mental architecture of pain. Pain has a psychological layer that's just as real as the physical one, and ignoring it is why so many rehab protocols fall short. Catastrophizing the tendency to interpret pain as signaling serious damage has been shown repeatedly to predict worse pain outcomes more reliably than the actual degree of tissue injury. So what you think your pain means changes how much it hurts. And that's got nothing to do with your willpower, that's neuroscience. Stress, anxiety, and poor sleep don't just make you feel worse emotionally, they lower the nervous system's threshold for producing pain signals. Your brain, already running threat assessments all day, becomes more trigger happy. Things that wouldn't hurt in a calmer state start to be very painful. This is why the person who's stressed at work, sleeping badly, and not moving suddenly has a back that went out, doing something so simple like moving a couch. The straw that broke the camel's back usually wasn't the straw, it was everything that came before it. Understanding this doesn't mean that the pain isn't real. It absolutely is. It means the solution is broader than just fixing the tissue. So pain is not your enemy. It is your most honest feedback system when you know how to read it. Most chronic pain is not the result of being broken. It is the result of being underprepared, of avoiding ranges until the nervous system stopped trusting them, of resting when the prescription should have been movement. The goal was never to be pain-free. Pain-free is passive. The goal is to be capable, resilient, and anti-fragile. To build a body with enough range, strength, and resilience that it can handle what life puts it through without treating every sensation as an emergency. So stop fearing the signals and start learning the language. That is how you become genuinely unbreakable. Now go test your body, listen to its feedback, start moving, and I'll see you in the next video.